Tom Woolley is the Managing Director of Food Tech Tasmania. Well, one of the agri-tech startups taking part in its latest accelerator program is US-based ADAR Technologies. It uses acoustic dehydration, basically a lot of air, to turn waste from the meat processing sector into powder and high-value products. Here's entrepreneur Kelsey explaining where the idea came from.
Broadly, we started off by looking at the problem of waste, particularly not necessarily food orientated waste, but things like sewage, slurry, like really wet waste streams that are really hard to get rid of, and realized how reliant they were on industrial drying and how difficult and how costly industrial drying was. And through that, we thought that there must be a better way, which came to us to start thinking about different approaches to dry the waste.
And something that wasn't already in the market?
No. So Ari, who's our technical director, basically had the idea that rather than drying it through heat, maybe he could use another form, which that's how he came up with the idea of acoustic dehydration, which I can talk to shortly. But that led us on a path of discovery, which is put us where we are today, which has led to the development of ADAR Technologies. And we're on the cusp of hoping to bring acoustic dehydration to the waste management market, but also to Australia.
Just describe what this looks like, this technology.
The technology basically looks like a shipping container with a couple of valves and to the side, but then you've got your process feeding waste in and something to collect waste at the end. The fun bit and the really exciting technology that happens within the shipping container is the acoustic dehydration that I've mentioned. And the easiest way to think of acoustic dehydration is if you imagine a fighter jet when it breaks the sound barrier, a big sound, and lots of water sprays off. What we've looked at is essentially reverse engineering that. So a fighter jet works through sending an object really fast through static air. We send waste through a vortex of really fast moving air, and that simultaneously dries, sanitizes and pulverizes the waste, taking it from a solid or a slurry and transforming it into more of a powder form, which then can be easier to move around, it's lighter, and ultimately easier to store, dispose of and get rid of.
When you talk about waste, primarily, who are you targeting?
Broadly, we talked about where we came from. In Australia, we're basically trying to understand where the operations are and where we best fit in. At the moment, we're looking at various forestries and certain food wastes. And one of the unique benefits we've picked up with our technology is the efficiencies in, well, I said drying, sanitizing and pulverizing, but particularly the sanitizing. As we don't use heat, a lot of the key nutrients that are in the waste in those industries are then maintained and kept. And the really exciting thing is if someone has a need for that nutrient once we've put it through our system, it's suddenly not waste anymore, and it allows it to be used in other industries and upcycled. And it's a long way to go, but some of the potential applications from this range from all the way from fertilizers to help crops grow to some more exciting applications in healthcare from nutraceuticals, certain beauty therapies, and a range of other different developing products that might be on the market within the next 10 years.
So this is using waste from a meat product?
So meat's one of the industries we're looking at. The really hard thing about waste, the meat industry, is that about 20% of the animal is the bits that's sold and goes on the market, and that's where all the profit comes from. The other 80% is currently massively underused, and that goes from the carcass and the bones all the way to the organs and the different things that currently there isn't a big market for and can't be processed. And critically within those organs, there's lots of very rich nutrients that can be really beneficially consumed. Just the way no one really likes eating liver or organs. But the advantage with our technology is if that can be fed through and processed, then all that comes out is a powder with those nutrients locked in. It's sanitized as well, so it gets rid of the smell. But at that point, it's ready to be upcycled and used in some of the industries we spoke about. So that could go into nutraceuticals, it could go into vitamins, and certainly with the case of the carcass, there's a lot of collagen within that. So that can be used in various beauty products and treatments that might be on the market.
How is this shipping container being powered?
It's powered off the grid. It uses electricity, and roughly it will use around 55 kilowatts an hour to process 3 to 4 metric tons of waste. The key difference with our technology versus some of the incumbents in industrial drying is that as we don't use heat, we don't need as much energy. And with heat, it needs a lot of energy to produce, and as a result, those products tend to use fossil fuels and natural gas. Whereas as we use electricity, it uses on average around a quarter of the electricity, which significant money savings for those involved, but also in the long run better for the planet.
How much does a unit set you back?
So you're not going to want to put it on your credit card. So the units range from anywhere towards the lower end is about 1.5 million Australian dollars, and the upper end goes for about 4 million. So it depends on the gubbins and what fits in the machine. They're not the cheapest bits of kit, but comparable to the other solutions that are out there, it ranks quite fairly. The really exciting thing about acoustic dehydration and where I've become involved with ADAR technologies is that we developed a solution for waste being sewage and slurry. And through our prototype testing, it now looks like it could work on a number of range of industries. There are some which we've tested and it fails, but there are others where it has potential value which we didn't see coming. It's really nice to be involved in applying technology to a new area to solve a big problem, but also to be able to discover those opportunities as we go along, and then work with farmers, producers and different people in Australia to really help them make a difference to their business, make a difference to the world, and potentially create new products that aren't out there that could make a big difference in people's lives.
Ben Kelsey is an entrepreneur in residence from ADAR Technologies. News headlines.